And at the same time, I want to say, give a quick wave hello to everyone on YouTube and everyone on Facebook as well. We're going multi-channel today. Topic of today's discussion, Lawrence, is all about finding your voice. Why is that important? What's that mean to you, and why is it important?
Well, it's important for, I think, two reasons. For you to really connect to the thing that you're doing with your life, it had better be something you think is worth saying, right? And the other thing is, if it's your voice, it's unique. It's your voice. There's no other voice like it. So even if you're saying similar things, you're putting your own twist on it. So it'll be more of a contribution to the Agile canon or whatever it is that you're calling it. So you'll live a life of more contribution, to put it into a little bit fluffy words, but still, I think that's really important.
Very true. And I think you need to stand out amongst the crowd. I mean, there's an awful lot of voice out there, right? We can't assume that we're the only podcasters, we're the only broadcasters, we're the only trainers, we're the only coaches. In order to advance the art, I think we have to be saying something a little bit different. So what's worth mentioning then is tomorrow, Thursday, May 6th at noon EST, you may know I offer these courses. So the May series is all about building your own brand, really, and creating a profitable Agile business. If you're not interested in necessarily working for a company, but you're thinking maybe you'd like to branch out on your own, do your own thing, I think what we'd cover in May is going to be crucial stuff. So why not sign up? It's like, I think it's 80 or 85 Canadian bucks a month, which is like zero everywhere else. And it's a subscription-based thing. So I believe that learning is an evolution, not a revolution, that we should be doing little bits of it every day, every week. So this is a 1-hour webinar right over your lunchtime, hopefully if you're in Eastern Standard Time anyway. So I don't want to give away the keys to the kingdom, but I do want to talk about finding your voice. So that'll be the first class. Tomorrow's class is all about finding your voice. And I think for me, the Badass Agile podcast as an example is something that I built based on the intersection of a couple of things. One, my experience working with ex-spec op guys, trying to figure out how they do what they do in no fail, can't lose situations, but also my experience as a musician, as an audio professional, as a boxer, as I have a very useful degree in English and psychology. Bringing all those things together along with my Agile experiences was what created the unique intersection. And it took me a while to get there, because in the beginning, it's like, well, I'm just going to go on and talk about Agile. So I'll be talking about stand-ups. I'll be talking about sprint planning. I'll be talking about maybe some Kanban, maybe some lean, who knows? But it didn't feel right. Now, what about you, Lawrence? Because I know you do some podcasting, broadcasting. You're out there. You are working for a company, but at the same time, you're training and you're injecting your own brand of agility and your understanding of it into the marketplace. So what does finding your own voice mean to you?
Well, it's a similar thing, really, because, I also talk about the things that everybody else talks about, but I always try to not just add my own spin on it, but really make it into something not just worth listening to, but worth hiring me for. And that means that, well, you do need to know the stuff that everybody's talking about, right? So that's not a bad thing, but you need to add your own personality to the mix. And I think for me, finding the authentic part of that, because the first times I did that, I became this larger than life agilista with the frothing at the mouth kind of. And then, of course, as awesome as that was, before you know it, you're bashing a waterfall or something stupid like that.
Sure.
And even though at that time that was my authentic voice, to be honest, it could be even better, right? So I shaved it down to, this is what I'm really passionate about, what I think the essence is. And that's slightly different for everyone. And I think there's immense value in that.
There is. I want to give you something to respond to here, Lawrence. And hello again to all my friends on Instagram Live. It's great to see you. I see all kinds of people joining. Thank you so much. Hello back. But when you try to please everyone, you end up delighting nobody. Whereas if you find your niche, if you find that specific group of people who want and need your specific message, my experience through the Badass Agile journey, and I don't favor that word too often, but through the progression over the past 4 years, my experience has been you find raging on fire, like I can't live without your content kind of tribe. So I think that's a big differentiator. Yeah, your audience may not be as big, because you mentioned something, you said, well, don't bash waterfall. Why not? When you find that things are not working in the industry, go ahead and bash them. I mean, don't be rude, but the idea behind saying safe things because they're comfortable to the widest range of people is the shortest path to average.
And the fun thing there is actually, because I totally get where you're coming from with that comment, but actually that was part of finding my own voice, because just somebody mentioned to me, "Okay, I always hear you bashing waterfall," and I thought, yeah, but it's because I really feel it doesn't work. And they just asked me one question that floored me really. So, yeah, but weren't you like the successful program and project manager for a bit, and didn't that include doing it well? So. How come you all of a sudden think, and then that became the message. The reason I'm telling this is that I know where you're coming from.
Yes.
And that was way more powerful.
Right.
And actually, I doubled down on that a little bit, because instead of rejecting project management outright, which I had been doing up till that point, I decided to not just incorporate that into my message, but to embrace it again and to figure out what Agile project management really is. And at that point in time, when I started doing that, people were telling me, there is no such thing as Agile project management. And I said, yeah, there is. This is what I'm doing.
Right. So you're breaking open a new door and you're saying, sometimes in Agile, we're playing in fantasy land and saying, nobody cares about the program or the portfolio. Nobody cares. Are we tracking results? Are we tracking sunk costs? Are we tracking timelines? Because those things are no-nos in the Agile world. But at the end of the day, if you work for a big corp, I guarantee you one of the reasons that you struggle with the way we've always done things is because it's a perfectly good question to ask. If you don't believe me, I have an experiment for you. Why don't you go to your auto mechanic or go to whoever's contracting, building your deck or installing your pool, and say, how much is this going to cost? And be comfortable with them saying, no idea, no clue.
Yeah.
When will it be done? Not sure. Like, how comfortable would you be if you dropped your car off because it was making a little pinging noise? And then you say, well, what's this going to cost me? And when you do that, they say, oh gosh, it could be $500. It could be 20 grand. You'd be like, listen, if it goes over the 500, I need you to phone me because I'm not signing up for the 20 grand. And yet we assume that because we're Agile, when we go into large corporations, we don't want to have that discussion with people. But everything that we do with Agile isn't somebody's investment. Does that make sense? This is somebody's dough you're playing with. And so we owe it to them to say, listen, I don't know. It's still okay to say, I don't know. But you have to be able to say, I think. You're looking at shot down middle of the road, it's like, this is 2.5K for your car, right? Worst case, 2.5. But if it looks like it's something that I hadn't seen, like if I look under your hood and I see you've never put oil in the car, and the reason why you've got a pinging noise is because your engine's starting to melt, then it's going to be much bigger than 2.5K. And you let me know what you want to do then, right? So I'm going to try to contain costs, and I won't spend your whole budget without letting you know where you're going to end up. But I can't say with certainty. So the only thing we can do, and this is what Agile teaches us to do, is let's roll, let's learn, let's then update our plan and update our costs as we go. That's a mature conversation to have. So I like where you're coming from there. So in a way, even though you're talking about an old quote unquote idea of project management, you're bringing it into Agile in a way that maybe nobody else is really talking about.
So plus, I'm owning my own history, right? Because I used to be a project manager. I know that stuff. And that means that it's almost nonsensical to not weave that into my narrative, to not make that part of my voice. I can still say why I switched careers, because there's reasons galore to not want to be active as a project manager anymore. Right. And I can share that as well. But it wouldn't make sense to negate the fact that that was how I entered into Agile coaching. So apparently there is a path there that others could walk as well.
Agreed. I got to mine because I was in the basement doing PM work, doing development work. And then you had all these guys in three-piece suits coming down and saying, Wilson, heard about this new thing called Agile. Make it work. One of you nerds go make it work. And all of us were sitting there like, what make it work? I mean, we can make it work, but are you going to listen to what needs to be done? Are you ready to hear the message? And so Badass Agile came out of a desire to train people up and gear you guys up with the courage, the confidence, and the skill that you needed to have those conversations. And to be blunt, when people reach out to me, that's what they want. How often in the Forge did we talk about Scrum or Kanban or any of those things. Less than 10%.
Sometimes I mention something, and that tends to sometimes be about Scrum because, well, I'm a Scrum trainer and all. But no, seriously, almost never. It's mostly about the courage and about the practice of telling truth to both power, but also yourself.
Oh,
and
boy.
I think that last part is even more important. That and well, essentially the fine art of communication. That's more how I would summarize it.
Yeah.
Of course, that has everything to do with stand-ups and with holding people to account and 100%. With making people use sprint goals effectively. But it's not about that ever. It's really about, okay, so this happens with your teams all the time, right? So that's why you need to do this way. That's why you need to communicate this way. And that is really powerful.
Yes. So think about it. Whenever here's why I think voice is so important. Whenever you're watching something that is a photocopy of something somebody else has done when they broke ground, it's a lot less interesting, right? Because it's like, well, this is more of the same of the true original. So you're just kind of stealing their deal. This happens a lot in podcasting. People can be vastly unoriginal, and they're talking about the same stuff that everyone else is talking about. So it's risky. Because if you're going to do something different, if you're going to speak your voice, it generally has to be two things. The intersection of two or more things that have never been stapled together before. I'm quoting George Carlin there. Look it up. But also, it has to be authentic. Now, you could create a character. We could say that maybe the badass agile guy, what if he weren't actually that courageous, but it's just a reflection of who I wanted to be? 99% of the time, that's not the case. Because I think if you're talking about things that you yourself actually can't pull off, you can't preach and you can't teach. So I think it has to be a unique intersection, and I think it has to be authentic. What else? Would you add something to that, Lawrence?
Well, not immediately, no. Mostly because I was just listening to you and thinking, yeah, man, that's really awesome. It also happens on these calls.
Right. Well, we're hoping to impart wisdom to the tribe because, you're now competing with 2 million podcasts. Make no mistake. And some people will say, yeah, but you know what? In the last 30 days, only 800,000 of those have released a new episode. That's still 800,000 people in your wheelhouse. So what's it going to be? Let's do something different. Let's advance the craft. But it requires courage because both that unique intersection and the authenticity requires courage. Courage to be who you are, courage to try something that might not work, courage to try something that will piss off 80% of the people that come across your podcast. They may outright disagree with you.
I have a nice example that we could highlight from somebody who's, at least he was on the call, and I think he still is, Rick de Groot, who is partner in crime for Marianne Pot, who is also member of the Forge. And they're currently working with really advanced gamification for agile teams and also leadership teams. And of course, when they got started, they were told, this is kind of milked before, and it's kind of a lame concept, and leaderboards, and they did it anyway. And now their thing is it's literally selling like hotcakes because they have their own take on this, and it's better than what anybody else is offering.
That's right.
And they stuck with it, right? So it is their own thing. It's really what they're making powerful. And I'm not even working with them anymore. So I'm at the competition. I'm looking for a reason to hire them to do that thing with my teams.
Or crush them totally.
That is, that too, but I didn't want to make that publicly on this. Do
not mess with Marianne.
Seriously, what they have done is so awesome. I'm looking to hire them.
Good. Yeah,
that's it. And that is finding your own voice, finding your thing, finding your niche, and really diving into it, making that into something worthwhile.
Because if you're the only one who does it, guess what happens when people want exactly what you sell? There's only one place to get it. And I'm not talking about just pure sales here. I'm talking about listening to a show. When people are looking to learn, if they were looking to learn gamification, there is only one place to get it.
Yep.
And people he's on this know that. And
he now says it's cool.
Exactly. Everyone else is now an imitator, right? Because you went first. Hello. Don't we talk about this in Agile all the time? The market rewards speed. First mover advantage is still a real thing. Don't pretend it's not. If you're the first one to say things, do things, and magnify them, So spend less of your time worrying about whether people will approve of your unique voice and more of your time marketing and spreading your message. And that's what innovation and success looks like in my book.
Exactly.
Anything else to add to that, Lawrence? Let's talk more about your unique voice. What about haters? What do you do if people come along and say, "Oh, you're not allowed to say that," or "I don't like what you said there"?
At first, I always panicked. And even though, of course, in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it says, don't panic on the front, I completely forgot that awesome advice. I always panicked, and I did something even worse. I always engaged. Now, and I'm not like Ryan Ripley, who when he engages the trolls, he brings the power, the fire, and of course, his own very awesome personality that essentially quenches trolls.
Exceptionally smart guy and a very certain and direct guy, right? So there's something to that if you're engaging trolls for sure. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, it's okay. But for me, when I engage with trolls, I actually try to convince them intellectually, engage them, win the debate, and of course, that's not what trolling is about. So I got sucked into rabbit holes until I decided, okay, so actually I kind of like the debate. So what I'm doing is I respond twice if I'm tempted to respond, and then I just stop.
Yeah.
And that is it's negative trolling, ghosting, or whatever you want to call it. But okay, if beyond 2 remarks we don't have a civil conversation anymore, I'm just not having a conversation.
That's right. That's right. And listen, here's a bit of truth about trolling. I want you to pay careful attention to this because it's not obvious, but it is always true. Nobody who is throwing smoke at you is doing more than you or doing it better. So if you're on YouTube and people are like, meh, I don't like your stuff, go look at their profile, see how many videos they've put up. It's usually 0 or 1 or 2. So the temptation is to reach back and to say, oh, well, by all means, educate me. Let me go check out some of your massive content that you've been putting out for you. Oh, there isn't any. Right. There's a temptation to be that guy. But the best thing to do is either not respond, or here's what I do on the Mixercist. We get a lot of smoke. We get people saying, you guys are stupid. You know, you made a mistake and frame something and you guys are idiots. Like, I don't understand where that actually, that's not true. I do understand where that negativity comes from. I just don't understand why anyone would think it's valuable commentary. So here's what I do. I say, thanks for the feedback. Good luck finding content that's a great fit for you. I'm sorry that our show wasn't it. Have a great day. And almost every time do people not only say, well, no, I actually love you guys. Huh? Or they take the comment down entirely. So you see, by defusing a hater, by saying, dude, I get that I'm not for everybody. And that's going to have to be okay. This is the greatest fear of people who don't bring out their true original voice. And they end up going out on LinkedIn or going on Instagram and talking about the same stuff. They're like, oh, yeah, how many people should be in a stand-up? Stop it. You know what I mean? Like, we got to move things forward. Think about Mike Cohn. The stuff that he did around story point estimation for its time was brilliant. Now everyone's hating on story points, whatever. The point is he changed the game. And so it's up to him to move on and evolve it and take it in new directions, or let the people who are inspired by it do that. But our biggest fear is that people are going to hate our stuff. Great. The stuff that I say today may not be relevant tomorrow, but for today, I was inspired to say it. I had to say it. And when people reach back out and say, you made a difference, I like what you said there, those are the people I'm aiming for. But if you try to aim to please 100% of the audience, you're going to fail 100% of the time.
Plus, trying to be right in an agile space is like a lame thing to do. There's always like 100 or 1,000 different ways to get it right, because that's what complexity entails, right? So there is no just one single solution. There is never a best practice. That just means that if you don't like story points, you try something else. You try no estimates. And if that works for you, you do that. And if it doesn't work for you, and you'll go all the way back to hourly estimates, and you're saying that out loud, that's fine too, because you need to find what works in this situation. And you don't need to be dogmatic about it. But because dogma shouldn't even be part of agile thinking. Now, it is, of course, we all know this, but part of my voice is saying that out loud. Yes, sometimes I have hourly estimates. Sometimes I use story points. Sometimes I do no estimates. Sometimes I use something else entirely. I'm completely in love with metrics, which is the danger, because loving numbers tends to also distract. So I try new stuff every time. And then there's this thing that always works. So that's what I tell most people, but I'm never hating on them for telling me, yeah, but I just feel more comfortable with an hourly estimate. So, good. So let's work with that. Let's start there.
Yeah. Start there, have it fail on you, find where the limitations are and say, okay, now we can maybe open our minds to something different. Hey, listen, I want to say hello to all our friends on Instagram, all our friends on YouTube and in Facebook as well. And I just want to remind you that the topic we're riffing on today is finding your voice. I'm doing a course on it tomorrow. It's part of the Agile Mastery series. If you're not familiar, you go check out my website or check out my Instagram. I'll have links in the show notes here. Where you can go and look at a subscription, a monthly subscription to make learning an evolution, not a revolution. You can grab some of these topics each and every month. Thanks for waving in, guys. If you have a question, go ahead and post it. Love to hear from you and say, what is it about finding your own voice that interests you? Have we said anything today that's captured your imagination? Marianne apparently heard the rumble, right? Heard the thunder. Heard that you, Lawrence, were bad-mouthing her. Lawrence, shame on you.
Finally made her actually watch the video.
Yeah, no, I think she's come on all these, hasn't she? She's jumped on all these so far, even for a couple of moments. So if you guys have a question or comment, Lawrence, go ahead. If you've got your IG open there, we can wave at folks and say hello, everybody.
Hi there. Yeah, and I got to do one thing, which is totally lame for everybody on the call. Malo. I just saw an old friend join, and he knows what that means. It's completely stupid, but it's fun nonetheless.
Nice.
And Marianne Potts says she loves us.
Of course. We love you too, and we miss you.
Yes.
We miss you, Marianne. I haven't seen you in a little while, so it'd be great to connect and chat and catch up. And Lawrence has been telling me about some of the fun stuff that you've been doing. So what else? Maybe we could close this out. In the course tomorrow, we're going to talk about how to find your voice, because that's the hard part. Right? How to have the courage to do it. Number one. Number two, how to identify what is uniquely you rather than mimicking the stuff that you see out there in the marketplace and run the risk of becoming a repeater or an imitator, which you don't want. True original matters.
We have one nice question at the end that we can riff off as the end.
I like it.
Do you ever feel you sufficiently found your own voice? Says Agile Nav, and if I'm correct in remembering this is Robbie.
It's Robbie, yeah. Welcome, Robbie. It's a great question. Let me tackle and put my take on it. When I found my thing, it was obvious I had to get on mic and go do it. So number one. Number two, it sustains over time. So don't be afraid to do something and have it go wrong and make 10 episodes or do 10 things, 10 posts, 10 IG videos, and have them be not quite you. And then let them go. You'll know. So the simple answer is, if it's not you, you'll know. But if it is you, it'll sustain over weeks and months, and you'll be jumping out of bed every day to do it. So Lawrence and I, we use like a Microsoft Planner to manage the backlog of ideas. And my ideas is hundreds long. And keep in mind, I've already created, I want to say there's already 400 episodes in the Badass Agile podcast library. And then I'm willing to throw away half of them because they're just not, it's not that they're not good. It's not that other people wouldn't be like, wow, I'd love to see that or build that episode myself. It's just the stuff that inspires me on a day-to-day basis are minor variations on a theme. So I'm comfortable having small adjustments to the Badass Agile way, but the core of it never changes. So don't look for an aha moment, except at the very beginning where it's like, this is compelling, I got to go on the air. And then after that, be comfortable with the fact that you will tweak it and refine it over time. So for me, that went from, going from 20-minute episodes to 10 minutes, because I really developed a strong belief that learning is small, bite-sized increments, and we're training people on 15 to 30-second attention spans. But what I talk about didn't change. So there's a you'll know when you'll know. I realize that's probably not an awesome answer, but I'm going to let Lawrence make the awesome answer.
Well, for me, the main summary of what you said, and also what I think, so I'm hoping we're agreeing here, is it's something that you always keep chipping at. So no, you're never done, but you can get real close, real fast, and then discover that it travels with you, right? So as you travel the path of proclaiming your own voice and talking with your own voice, you'll discover an even better message, and you start telling that, and that becomes your voice. So it's always a journey that you're describing, and that is really, really cool because it'll attract the right people. So you'll attract the best and repel the rest. So to talk with one of my content marketing heroes, and I particularly like that one from Chris Ducker. And it's what I weave into how I communicate as well. Some people don't like the way that I do that, and then I just don't work with them.
Right. Find your tribe. That's the whole point of finding your voice. And it's so much less work, you guys, to find the thing that is uniquely you. It's so much less work because you're not putting on airs. You don't have to think to create content. You just wake up and be and press play or record more accurately.
And that also actually talks to May's question here, that in a world where you absorb content by osmosis, are there any tips for reconnecting your authentic voice? Yeah. Don't listen to anything but your own thoughts in the first hour you wake up, right? So don't put on a podcast or whatever, and then just write down what you think.
Yeah.
And then revisit that. Of course, it's by osmosis. There will be opinions from others in there, and that is fine because it's still your take on that truth. And then you just tell that in those words, the words that you use to describe what you're thinking as you've just woken up, because it's highly unlikely that I will wake up in the morning quoting Chris Tucker.
Yeah.
That just happened because I just read a blog post from him. But in the morning, it'll be my words.
Exactly. And by the way, Maeva, everyone follow Maeva. Click on her thingy there, her name. I'm assuming it clicks to her profile because number one, she takes the best photos ever. Number two, she's in England and she posts a lot of pictures of London and stuff, which is always charming to me. Plus she has that wicked good English accent, which us Canadians all envy and drool over, but she does create great content. So it's Maeva, and it's also Beta Habits, I think, is your side hustle.
Oh, nice.
Let me tag on to that. Maeva, one tip I'll give you, and again, I'm assuming I really want people to take this course with us tomorrow, because finding your voice, there's a process you need to go through. So I don't want to spoil it for paying people who are jumping in, but I will give you one little sneak peek, Maeva. The things that persistently egg you every day. You get up and you're like, oh my God, I love being a Scrum Master. I love being an Agile coach. I love this, but here's the stuff that I see that's an ache. It's a pain. It's a thorn in my side. I hate it. Start there. There's deep meaning in the things that you see as unjust, unfair, or not sensible, right? What do we do that's really dumb as Agilists? That's a question worth asking. And when you find the answer to it, you are on to something that is uniquely you, because that pain, that persistent thing that keeps throbbing, is the authentic you, right? That's the person who wakes up every day saying, I love this, but I hate the fact that there's a power imbalance, or I love this and I hate the fact that people won't listen and change their minds, right? They want the outcomes, but they're not willing to put in the work. That was my thing. The stuff that drove me nuts about my job. Here it is, wrapped up in a package for you. You want to be faster? Deliver stuff to market better, right? Deliver the most important things first to the customers who matter most. It's right here in front of you, step by step. And people are like, yeah, cool. Except this thing about being accountable. I'm not down with that. And those face palm things that drive you nuts, that's the powerful stuff.
Yes.
So I'm going to close it there because we got to get on to some other things, but it's so great to see you guys. We're trying to do this every Wednesday at 11 a.m. EST. So keep joining us. We got some more groovy topics for you. You can also find this on YouTube. Check out the Facebook Badass Agile Listener Lounge. Hey, check out the podcast on this new app called Shuffle, because you can engage and comment and do like animated GIFs and stuff. Kind of a new thing, social podcast. Check it out with me. And do look into the Agile Mastery Series for May, because we've got some great topics about running your own Agile shop, building your own Agile business, defeating the inner critic. Oh, the juicy stuff. So thanks for allowing me the shameless pitch. I try to minimize how much I do it, but it's wonderful to see you guys. Lawrence, thank you for joining with me. I appreciate your input so much, and I love the way you drive this conversation with us. Cheers,
awesome.
guys.
Looking forward to next week.
Stay badass. We'll see you soon.